Right, gentlemen, if you've stumbled across this video, I'm assuming that you're either on your journey to 10% or sub 10% body fat. So I thought I'd make a video giving some tips and tricks, trying to get to at least what I found useful. You know, can be quite an arduous journey getting to 10%, especially sub, but it can be done. And here are some, I'm just going to give you some insight into what I've done to help me attain what I believe to be around 10%, maybe even a little below at times. But yeah, I think the thing with 10% is it is one of the more challenging parts of the cutting journey. However, it's almost certainly the most fruitful endeavour you will do in regards to being aesthetic and just exposing what you actually look like and the amount of lean mass that you do currently have on your frame. So yeah, let's get into it. Right, so I've changed the angle as the lighting was a bit precarious. Also, if you're wondering, is that a power rack in the background? It is, and it is in the living room, which is pretty cool. But right, first things first, you've probably guessed this one, it is a prerequisite of losing fat. We need to be in a calorie deficit. And how much of a calorie deficit is going to depend on your current situation. For this purposes of this video, I'm going to assume you're in reasonable shape, around 15% body fat. So to get from 15 to 10, we don't really want to be pushing more than a 500 calorie deficit. If you want, you can even go lower, 300 to 400, that's fine. But averaging around a pound of fat loss a week is ideal. We don't want to make it more substantial because your leptin's going to go down, your ghrelин's going to go up, your appetite is going to skyrocket, and it's just going to be torture and hell. We want to ease into 10% as best as we can. The slower the better. Slow is smooth, smooth is fast. And yeah, so in terms of actually being in a deficit, you need to find out your maintenance calories, of course. I'm sure you're aware of this. Subtract your whatever amount of calories you want to achieve the correct sort of deficit. So 500 for us. And you should be losing about a pound a month on your averages. Make sure you're weighing yourself every single day, adding them all up at the end of the week rather, and then dividing it by 7 to get your averages. That'll give you a more accurate, at least the most accurate depiction of your current weight loss trend. So yeah, there's our first step. So the second tip I'm going to recommend is walk more. Now that sounds very basic, but I promise it will help. It's going to allow us to up our calories a little bit, add some more carbs, which basically is going to maintain training performance. And yeah, it's going to be good, especially if you couple it with getting outside. You know, even if you live in the UK, where I currently reside, it's not particularly bright, but it is good for you. You know, get some vitamin D. Yeah, but 10, 15, maybe even 20k steps. It's going to allow us to up our calories, consume more carbs to maintain trainer performance. And yeah, it's just a good, healthy thing to include. So the third tip I'm going to recommend is to base your diet mostly around whole foods. So that's your red meats, your potatoes, your fruits, your kiwis, berries, that sort of thing. So your red meat is going to be very micronutrient dense, and if you opt for like a 95.5 ground beef, for example, it's going to be lean, and it's not going to have much fat because obviously calories, things that are higher in fat are more calorie dense. And then potatoes particularly, not only are they more micronutrient dense than say a rice as an alternative carb source, they are very satiating. I do believe they're actually on the scale of things like one of the most satiating foods. So I think it's boiled potatoes. Personally, I just do regular British potatoes or Mars Pipers, cut them into fries essentially, and then air fry them. So yeah, you don't want to be covering them in oils and stuff because it's just going to add to the total calories, which is not necessary. They're pretty nice, just air fried. Yeah, and if you base your foods around them, you're going to fuel yourself well. You're going to put yourself in a good place for training, performance, and also satiety, which is the optimal setup. So those actually are the 3 main principles that you need to stick to, and those will carry you pretty much 95% of the way. However, there's some bonus ones that I thought I'd include. Firstly is mostly frequency and timing. So you probably want to practice some form of intermittent fasting. So that's where we push our first meal back, which is going to allow us to backload our calories toward the end of the day when we're typically more hungry. You know, at the start of the day, your hunger, if you're doing things well, shouldn't be too high anyway. So just pushing that first meal back, you can either opt for 16/8, 24 sort of split, which is just 16 hours of fasting followed by an 8-hour eating period. And yeah, that's going to be a good approach. Also, timing is important with regards to carbohydrate intake. So you want to be using those carbs for your training, ideally. So some carbs before, some carbs and protein, and also preferably about an hour after training is also ideal. Another useful tool is caffeine, which I'm sure you're aware of. Increasing caffeine intake is usually a good thing. So you probably already include this anyway, but I just thought I'd mention it. Or drinking coffee in the morning is ideal just to reduce appetite, increase our metabolism. It's just going to make us move more, do more, which is going to drive up NEAT, which is non-exercise induced thermogenesis, which is just useful. It's going to bump up our TDEE, the amount of calories we burn throughout the day. But yeah, honestly, all those three main things and those two bonus tips, I would say will carry you 95% of the way. The rest is just time. And it will take time to get to your desired goal, but it is worthwhile. And yeah, I wish you your best. Best of luck on your journey to 10%. Tune in for more content. Going to be posting more useful stuff, diving into a bit more of the training philosophies and other useful tips and tricks. If you want to contact me regarding coaching, details will be in the description. That's only if you want this to be more bespoke to yourself, more tailored. Otherwise, you should be well equipped to deal with this process by yourself if you want to do that like I did personally. But yeah, good luck.